Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to do a rundown of Dev Diary number 79. Haven't seen a Dev Diary in a couple weeks since patch 1.2 dropped, and I was actually going to do, hopes and dreams for patch 1.3 as a video if this was not forthcoming today, but we finally get the Dev Diaries back up, and we see it's about what's next after 1.2, which I think is kind of important to have a discussion. We've had like a little bit of settling into the 1.2, and so let's kick things off. So, first, after the update of 1.2, yes, we've been waiting with bated breath. And for this Dev Diary, they're going to be giving an overview of several things and what they've been trying to do since release. And they kind of have several statuses for this, as well as an infographic we're going to take a look at. But they have stuff either done, updated, where it's not quite fully done, but they've made some changes and this sort of stuff, not updated. And so this hasn't been improved upon at all, but is planned for the future. And new, which is a new plan change that has been added that wasn't present in Dev Diary 64, which had this post-release plans type of thing here. And so we're going to take a quick look at this and jump into it and talk about it. Let's jump in, because I think that this is absolutely gorgeous from a design perspective. And I'm talking about not game design, but like aesthetically, like whoever's in charge of putting this thing up, this thing is gorgeous, is what I'm trying to say. But this is not exactly what we're talking about. We're going to start out with other, because my face covers a majority of the other. So at the very top, we have improve alerts and the current situation widget to provide more useful and actionable information. This is for new. Would love to see this. I think that I have become increasingly concerned with the fact that Victoria 3 needs to kind of make a bit of an ingress into expanding its player base, otherwise it's not going to get support. If you look at the numbers for, concurrent Steam players, like this type of stuff, if Victoria 3 does not start performing better, then it will likely no longer receive support from Paradox, is kind of my impression, just based on like looking at the trajectory of things. And I would love to see the game continue to get support. I think that the game is going to become extremely good, but right now there's a lot of mechanics in it that I think are just kind of, how should I say, they are not entertaining or good, or they are off-putting to a new player in a lot of ways. And so we're going to talk about this a little bit here, but information just being more actionable and relevant, and just feeling more of a connection with the game instead of you're just like watching this game happen, I think is important. Okay, so for the green, for the complete, make it easier to get an overview of your pops and pop factors such as needs, standard living, and radicals loyalists. They did this in 1.2. Experimented with some autonomous investment private sector construction and increased the differences in gameplay between the two different systems. They've done this. Tweak late game economy and the AI's ability to develop key resources such as oil and rubber. They've done this as well. The AI is much, much better about exploiting the resources and building them out, and so I'm pretty happy with all of this in the other section. And I just wanted to cover it first because it's not visually available for you here as a result of my big fat head. Okay, for internal politics, we'll go right to left, I suppose. I think it's Arabic, where you write right to left, which is kind of interesting. Improve the mechanics of new law enactment system and revolutions to be more engaging for the player. This is a new thing. This seems something I would generally be interested in. I think that currently that entire system needs a bit of an overhaul, but that's all. It's also not something that's particularly pressing. This is not necessarily what I would want to see for 1.3 as its main thrust, but as things stand currently, it just you click the button, and like if you're not revving, you're like fine. You kind of don't want people to be -10 because it gives you radicalism, but it's like not that big a deal. And like overall, it just seems kind of formulaic and not an engaging mechanic to pass laws. And I think passing laws, or the interplay between interest groups and pops and buildings, is like kind of one of the coolest thing about it. And so the more depth you can add to these sorts of systems, the better. Add more mechanics for character and for characters, which is something I really like, because add more mechanics for characters just allows you to lean more into the RP element. I think that, just being a faceless economic sim, while I don't have a problem with that, I think in order to make it more widespreadly kind of not available, but appealing you that this sort of thing is good, and give the player more reason to care about individual characters in your country. So fine with this. Add laws that expand on the diversity of countries and introduce new ways to play the game. Really would love diversity. I have all of the runs feel relatively similar. You know, you kind of just put in the same laws and you build the economy the same way in every single country with a few differences here and there, especially with the start. The most interesting thing is starting a game, because very often the start will have, you know, some localization or some differing strategies. But once you start to get into the game, you know, you take all the same, like, important states, you know, you expand in all the same places. It starts to feel, you know, a little bit all of the same. And so, like, if countries have different you know, unique flavor and advantages in this sort of stuff, or they kind of move in a trajectory that does this, I would be more than happy. Like, one example of this that I like is that some countries you have a, what is it called? Or not some countries, some pops have an obsession. So, for example, Japan might have the Japanese might have an obsession with porcelain. And so what this means is that glassworks will be, you know, more profitable, and this makes it so that, you know, perhaps you want to lead into building more glass early because your pops will overbuy and shoot down their SOL because of their obsession with porcelain. And so, like, this type of stuff is interesting, and it allows for a little bit more, like, dynamic gameplay, so every run doesn't feel the same, which is kind of the situation. Make playing conservative autocratic style more interesting and viable, but also more challenging. I don't think it's all that viable, but challenging, sure. I guess it's more interesting and more viable, but I still don't think... I think that for the most part you kind of don't want to go that route, but okay. So for diplomacy, this is what I absolutely want to see the most changes in 1.3, and would really, I think is, I think the most off-putting thing as it currently stands is the mechanic for the diplomatic play. And I think that I've complained about this in a lot of recent videos. I think that in particular, like, the opacity of the entire system, I don't have a problem with the system, like, in the abstract, but in its execution as a player, it just, like, you just feel like you just wildly get slapped in, like, just these strange ways in a way that, like, doesn't seem... and also, like, you can't really back down from a place sometimes, like in our fractured China run, like Germany, for example, like, gets swayed to help out someone, and then what they want from us is our capital province, and it's like, you know, the entire system is exhausting. I would really love to be able to, like, play Iron Man and feel good about playing Iron Man, but the way diplomatic plays go, it's just like, your ability to feel connected to what's going on in the game is severely, like, disconnected by the diplomatic play system, because they're just so erratic, not predictable, and, like, people can, like, you can be inside someone's customs union and have them be protective of you, and then they join and play against you while you're trying to just expand their custom union more, and it's like, what gives, my guy? But let's talk into it. Add reverse swaying, the ability to join the side of play in exchange for something. Would love this. This would also, you know, right now there's a huge asymmetry in terms of how the AI gets to play versus how you get to play, and there's a lot of these asymmetries, and so they can, like, the AI gets to reverse sway, let's say, but you don't get to reverse sway at all. Add more things to offer in diplomatic plays. Would love for this. More things to offer. So it'd be nice if you could offer states, or offer money, or offer, like, these types of stuff in diplomatic plays. I'm assuming that's what it refers to. And also just making diplomatic plays feel a little bit more dynamic. Add the option to trade, or at least give away estates. Perfect. Add foreign investment and some form of construction in other countries. Would love this. It's really annoying to have subjects and they have, like, a bunch of natural resources and you can't exploit them. Would love to be able to invest in their country. Improve and expand on interactions with and from subjects. Would love to be able to feed them territory, and also, like, for that relationship to actually feel, like, dynamic at all. Currently it just feels very flat. Would love for something a little bit more like EU4 like, where it does feel dynamic, and, you know, sometimes you actually want to just keep someone as a subject for, like, RP reasons and sort of thing, but, like, right now it just feels like some sort of strange vapid, like, like tasteless interaction where it's just every type of subject is just a speed bump to annexation, which is I think would be nice for it to not feel like that. Allow peace deals to be negotiated during a diplomatic play. I would love this. I would love to be able to offer stuff other than 10% of my income, or for like 5 years, in order to get people to leave the play. I would love to be able to escalate a play and then get out of the play in a way that like feels like just not getting absolutely wrecked, like I mentioned with the Germany example, where like the only way to leave the diplomatic play, because it's a primary war goal for like Hebei, is to give up my capital state. Like that doesn't make any sense, man. That's like, it's too much. Add the ability to expand your primary demands in diplomatic play beyond just one war goal, which they already added, so they have complete. So, would really love to see something in diplomatic plays. I also would like to see guarantees come back, and that maybe like there's another like influence like resource where you can use it to force other people or to prevent other people from joining plays, like call it diplomatic clout or whatever, and it's a resource you accrue, and then when someone tries to join a play, you can force them out of the play, and then you give them the diplomatic clout, you pay diplomatic clout to them, and so it's like an exchangeable resource that you can use to force certain situations to happen in a diplomatic play. And then, for example, if they're guaranteeing another country, you can't force them out with this like diplomatic clout. Just like another resource that adds a dynamic where you can like plan ahead and be like, okay, I can keep Great Britain out of this war, you know, and try and expand here, or I can accumulate resources in a particular way diplomatically to try and prevent great powers from sticking their finger in my pie. Okay, which is the classic, like, what mostly occurs. For historical immersion, which I think the game is relatively poor on right now, the localization seems rather minimal, except for, like, maybe 10 countries have some decent localization, and that's it. For first one, add more country, state, and region-specific content to enhance the historical flavor of countries. This is great. Would also like to see more state modifiers and some state modifiers to be nerfed. I mean, the United States just has a bunch of absurdly good state modifiers. I don't know if that's, like, a fair assessment of like their resources, but it seems that there's like not much consideration given to some areas of the world. Like Australia just get absolutely screwed because their arable land count is so low, which I think is absurd. I guess I don't know too much about farming in Australia though. Okay, tweak AI to make it play in a more believable and immersive way. I do like that the AI does, they have 3 attitudes, and based on those attitudes, they change the way they play quite a bit. And the AI has definitely markedly improved in 1.2, but as they have the yellow updated, not complete, I think that that's kind of like in line. Make AI succeed more often at content such as the Meiji Restoration, Alaska Purchase, etc. Okay, fine. Have nation unifications happen more often according to a historical schedule? I don't have a strong opinion on this, but this seems fine. Make the American Civil War happen more frequently in a way that makes sense and is not easily avoidable? Sure. America is always like the most cursed country ever, though, when the AI is handling it. I wish that they tweaked the AI so that there would have continued unification incentive for the United States. But okay. Expose and improve content such as expeditions and journal entries. I have stopped doing expeditions since it can like brick your general, and I should probably look into doing this more. And so perhaps I should be doing this. And as far as journal entries go, I really think that they should nerf the corn laws. I think the corn laws are dumb. Would love to see a nerf, but that's more of a balance complaint than a what I think is more important, which is trying to improve the experience of Victoria 3 for the newer player. Because even if you're not a newer player, this should be something you care about, because if the game does not get more people playing it, the game will stop getting updates. It will go the way of Imperator. So, yeah. Okay, and for Warfare, there's a lot of problems. It's not really a Warfare game. I think someone put it like this, where most of these strategy games are, Warfare sims with the economy to support the Warfare, and Victoria 3 is an economy sim with the Warfare to support the economy. But let's jump into this. Experiment with controlled front splitting for longer fronts. Happy with this. I actually really like the Hoey system in terms of warfare, and I'm guessing that as things progress, they will start to look more and more like Hoey without having too much complexity, I suppose. But maybe they'll get into the complexity. I don't really know. I'm not sure how much this affects game performance and this type of stuff. Reduce the number of early game total wars between great powers. That is fantastic. I have found that I think that great powers just do too much thumb sticking and pieing, specifically Great Britain, throughout the early game, and it just doesn't feel good. Of course, it doesn't feel good when it's your pie, but, you know, as it goes. Add field promotion to prevent armies from going home after generals die in war. That would be really great and fantastic. That's really annoying mechanic. Generally speaking, generals getting unassigned from fronts is one of the most frustrating things, especially because the nature of the game, or the way that military stylizes itself, is like you set the guys on the front and you forget about it and you focus on your economics, and that's fine. But the way that it works in practice is sometimes your guys get unassigned from landings, sometimes the general dies, all these sorts of things. Sometimes the front splits funny, and then you feel like you have to micromanage really important wars in a way that is not a result of you being able to make a difference because you're outplaying or outmaneuvering, but it's you just... how should I say, you just picking up the pieces behind like a poorly constructed mechanic where, you know, your guys get assigned to the wrong front and then they completely conquer behind and you just lose like military access. Anyways, visualize overview of military situation and expose more data, updated not complete. Increase visibility of navies and make admirals easier to work with. Okay. Find solutions for when theaters split into multiple fronts. This has been partially solved, not complete. I'm not sure exactly the best way you're going to solve it unless generals can fight on multiple fronts simultaneously. And there's a lot of other things where, like, I've been experimenting with this thing where it seems like if you just land with 3 navies at one time, the landing almost always goes off, independent of how strong the armies are. And I'm thinking specifically landing the UK in the home counties, where, you know, the first landing gets tied up by whatever navy they have patrolling the coast. The second landing goes in on, like, 400k troops, and you'll have like 40,000 versus 300k, and then the third landing goes in against 5k, and so you get this landing because the battles are split in an absurd way. And so I think it would be important for the battles to be able to resplit based on landings, but this doesn't seem especially important in terms of what's important right now for the game, but it's just a bit of a complaint. And then generals improve unit selection for battles, balance overall progression among fronts, and add the ability to set strategic objectives. They did this, and I was pretty happy with this. Okay, so this has kind of been the infographic. I'm guessing that this is mostly just kind of a reiteration of this, so military adding the ability to add strategic objectives. And so this sounds like they're just summarizing this here. We will just take a quick look through not updated and new just to confirm. Splitting fronts, system for reducing the number of total wars between great powers, solving an issue of generals going home. So it does seem like they are mainly talking about adding more countries, state, and region-specific content. They are just reiterating stuff that's in the infographic, which is, by the way, just absolutely gorgeous. Improve the mechanics of law enactment, giving the players more engaging and stuff to interact with. Fantastic. Right now, you just tick it and you let it tick. As long as it's not revving your country, you just kind of don't really do anything. And just so this sort of stuff. Just as last time we shared these plans, the above is not an exhaustive list of everything we want to do, and I can't give an exact timeline for any of the individual points in the future, which they'll be a part of. List is still only covers changes and additions that we want to be part of free updates. Okay, so this is fantastic that all this is going to be a free update. I'm really hoping for a big Diplo update. Right now, the diplomacy specifically is what feels the most stale and perhaps detracting from the game, notably how plays work, how alliances work, how relationships work, how subjects works. All of this definitely is the stuff I think should be improved the most. I was a bit disappointed that 1.2 was primarily an economic update because I felt like the economy, you know, I didn't have a problem with any of the updates they made to 1.2. I just had a problem with what they were focusing on updating, which I felt that was not the area that needed the most help, which was warfare and diplomacy. But okay. We are planning to continue releasing dev diaries like this, updating you on the progress after each major update of the game. That's all for today's update. Next week, we'll dive back into reg dev diaries. Perfect. As we start going over the details, what's in the work for 1.3, although we won't be able to talk about the release date for that update. See you then. And I'd just like to come back to this infographic because I think it's absolutely gorgeous. I'm really, I mean, like, it's a bit much to just pour over how good it looks, but I think it does capture a lot of the stuff, and I think that very much front and center, the problem is diplomacy. I think that this is what needs the most help, and I think that it's probably also the most difficult to improve in a substantive way, but I think that for the player experience, I think that I would have to imagine that for a lot of players, they play and they're playing with the economics and they're like, okay, this is complex, but I'm doing my own thing. And then they start their first diplomatic play, and then Great Britain joins against them, and then they just get absolutely wrecked, and then they uninstall the game. Like, which isn't to say that Great Britain should never interfere. It's just, you, like, when you're looking to start the play, it's, like, unclear that Great Britain's going to join. It looks like they're going to be neutral, and then they just join against you. And it's very, very common. I don't have a problem with the AI being more aggressive. I mean, in 1.1, the AI, like, never joined anything at all. And I'm not trying to suggest that the UK should be less aggressive. But I'm trying to suggest that from the player's perspective, it is completely opaque, the level of aggression you can expect to see from the great powers, and I would love there to be less opacity or more interaction and giving the player more agency in order to prevent these great powers from sticking their finger in your pie, and perhaps a way to accumulate resources to try and do a war, like I was saying earlier, with like some sort of like clout or influence resource that you accumulate and you use in order to keep Great Britain out of your war, like political clout, or I don't even know what the resource would be called, and I don't much care what the resource would be called, but a way for you to like kind of proactively not necessarily be able to get every war you wanted, but if you were to wait and work and spend money and resources and these types of things, to be able to prevent a great power from joining, or to be able to sway them to back down from joining based off of something. Like, it could be shipping them paper, or like giving them like free, like, I don't even know what it could be, but it's just something that like if you were exporting a large enough volume of stuff to their country that you like accumulate influence within their country, or this sort of stuff, which would make sense. I mean, that's kind of how a lot of stuff works. And so if they accrue a dependency on you for oil, let's say, it'd be much harder for them to join planes. All stuff of this matter. Would really love to see, you know, I would love to be able to play on Iron Man in a way that does not feel absolutely terrible, but as it stands, it currently does. Although I think the biggest problem for that is because of the there's a button for, you can, where the back down button is the same as the switch sides button, and currently my understanding is you can click the switch sides button, there's no confirmation on it, and this means that if you have a revolution, or if you have a subject that has a revolution and you accidentally click switch sides, you just brick your whole run. And so that's a problem. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this update. I'm very excited to see what they can do with diplomacy. I hope that they focus primarily on attracting new players to the game instead of, like, the economic changes seemed a little bit more to cater to, you know, the Vicky 2 players and, like, perhaps the more sweaty players. And I really hope that they focus more on the beginners with their updates in general, in terms of what they deem to be important, because I think that for the game to survive, more people need to get playing it. And so this type of thing, you don't want to see it go the way of Imperator. Of course, like, Stellaris also didn't perform that well, like, post-launch, and, like, lost a bunch of players and then rebounded. Hopefully this is the case for Victoria 3. I think they need to fix diplomacy for this. Anyways, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and have a good day.